So it turns out YouTube hates it when you use Star Wars music when talking about Star Wars, so enjoy this alternative mix. So earlier today, I attended the Star Wars Unlimited pre-release at my local game store. Now, I had covered the game a bit after playing a demo at PAX Unplugged, but today was my first chance at some actual deck building using the pre-release kit, so I have a bit more of a complete picture in regards to talking about it. So Star Wars Unlimited is at least the third attempt by Fantasy Flight to launch a Star Wars themed card game. Their first try, the Star Wars LCG, failed because it was a competitive LCG, which have a nasty habit of being doomed. The second one, Star Wars Destiny, was plagued with issues regarding the game's dice gimmick alongside sporadic release dates and strangely oppressive set rotation. But third time's the charm, right? And so this time Fantasy Flight is going the old tried and true trading card game route with booster packs and all that jazz. And it was okay. It might be because of the familiar mechanics that reminded me of mobile games, it might be because I'm a little fatigued with all of the new releases that keep coming out, or it might be the fact that I have fallen out of love with Star Wars, but I thought it was fine. So in the preview kit I got for $30, pretty typical for a sealed event, I was given a box containing 6 booster packs, a pair of promo leaders based on the starter deck leaders, and a storage box. As for why this kit came in such a large box, it's because it also comes with a full-sized rulebook and a sheet of tokens, which I assume also matches those found in the starter set. As everyone got a copy of the Darth Vader leader card with their box, I substituted in my functionally identical extended art packs promo for my game. Also included were the pre-release instructions. This was a sealed event, not draft, so we got to use the contents of our own 16 card boosters unhindered to build a 30 card deck to play with, which, with well over thrice that many in the packs we got, was super easy, barely an inconvenience. Now, 12 of those 96 cards were the leaders and bases, so it's more like we had 84 cards, but that's still more than enough to build a pretty good deck. You are also allowed to use the promo leaders or any of the basic base cards which the store was given a bunch of. Now, I'm sure all of you are waiting for me to mention the fact that the packs are indeed wrapped with paper. This was something I talked about in my year-end review that I was hoping to see more of, and here we have it. Alongside the tear strip box, we have paper packs. Neat! Easier to open and better for recycling. Can be used as compost or incinerator fuel without clogging up the local waterways. My only concern with these is how well they keep cards protected in transit, so this might be interesting to examine further down the line, although paper packs used to be the standard for how trading cards were released, so more like a return to form than anything else. At 16 cards each, the packs are downright generous in size. Granted, 2 of these slots are always a leader card and a base card, with bases also able to double as tokens on the back, but the remaining cards make the packs still more than worth it. There is 1 rare slot, but the foil slot is decoupled and can be in any rarity, and so is the leader card, which can also be in any rarity. There is also a chance that 1 or more card in a pack can be replaced with an extended art version. All of the cards seem to have extended art versions, even the bad ones. Especially the bad ones. Although on the plus side, if a base gets an extended art, the token side on the back gets extended art too. Neat! So, how to play. When you build your deck, you first pick a leader card and a base card. Both of these cards have one of 4 colored icons, with the base having your starting life total, and your leader card also having either a light side or dark side icon, along with a special ability. I know the rulebook calls them heroic and villainous icons, but light side and dark side are the terms that stuck at the event, and I mean, everybody knows what they mean, and it just makes the whole thing more Star Wars, you know? Now, these icons don't really limit what cards you can use, but these 3 icons add up to your deck's affinity. You may play cards of any type in your deck, but for each icon on said card that does not match your affinity icons, its pay cost goes up by 2. So if a player with a light side character tries to play a dark side card, it will cost extra. Thankfully, this means that any Wrath cards won't be locked to a single color. Some decks will just have an easier time using it. And yes, there are already multi-affinity cards, most of which have either light side or dark side icons along with their normal color icons, or sport a double affinity icon, meaning playing just one color has some fringe benefits, such as free access to this game's cryptic command. So it's basically the Lorcana system, but better in basically every single way, enabling mix-ups and splash-ins no matter which character you play as. Vader is always red dark, but what other color do you pair him with? I went with yellow, but that's because I pulled a special base. Special bases, printed at rare and occupying the rare slot, are base cards that have 5 fewer health in exchange for a one-shot ability. These are very, very good, as my group would soon find out. Well, there's also the fact that Vader is totally cracked, but we'll get to that. With all that together, you shuffle and draw 6 with 1 free mulligan, then pick 2 cards from your hand to add face down to your resource row, leaving you both with 4. Play is done in alternating activations, where a player can play 1 card, use 1 ability, or attack with 1 character before play passes to the opponent. At the end of the round, once everyone has passed, players draw 2 cards. They may then add 1 card from their hand to their resource row before untapping and starting the next round. Pretty simple so far. The game generates a back and forth while giving players good card flow in a way that does not punish adding cards to the resource row. You can even choose to not add a card to the resource row at all and keep both. As an added twist, the player who passes first may instead opt to seize the initiative, meaning they will go first on the next round. Now, the big gimmick in Unlimited is that combat takes place in 2 lanes instead of just 1. Ground and space. Each character card is hard-coded to one of these, and so ground troops and land speeders can only be played to the ground, while spaceships are put into space. This adds a bit of interesting room to deck design. Do you try to balance between these 2, or do you try to focus on one to grasp control over? Complicating this, however, are the leader cards. Once per game, upon hitting a proper threshold, you may flip your leader card like the J-Ruler and Force of Will, changing them into a character who can fight in combat. One thing though, every last leader card becomes a ground unit. Even the ones shown piloting spaceships, or who spend the entire movie in a spaceship, are all ground units. Makes things feel a bit weighted. I mean, it does give space the advantage of not having to worry about a big bad just thumping in out of nowhere, and there are technically characters with reach who get played to one zone but can interact with the other, so there is already decent complexity. As for how these units work, well, it's Hearthstone. There's no other way around it. It plays like Hearthstone. Characters enter play exhausted, but when ready, you may spend your action to attack with it, either swinging at your opponent's base or at any unit in the same lane as the attacking unit, regardless of position. Shield works like Shield, intercepting 1 hit of any power before breaking, and Sentinel is this game's taunt, preventing the opponent from attacking anything else in that lane until defeated. Although there is also the Saboteur keyword, which counters both. Damage is persistent between turns, with units being discarded upon taking enough damage, and flipped leaders getting sent back to their leader spot with an epic action token showing they cannot flip into a unit for the rest of the game, but still able to use their leader ability. So a bit about these. Leader abilities are either a passive buff or a once per turn ability your leader can perform. Whether they keep this ability upon flipping into their leader unit form depends on the character, but they are often deck defining. And Darth Vader's is terrifying. Darth Vader's ability is, as long as you have played a dark side card on your turn, you may, once per turn, choose 1 opposing unit and 1 opposing base, and deal 1 damage to each. The amount of pressure this applies is absurd. I mean, you're going to be running a dark side deck with Vader anyway, so this option is basically always open to you. Unlike the Emperor, it doesn't require a big sacrifice on your part to exchange for the ability to plink anything. The opponent is always in a bind where a unit who survives on 1 isn't a safe bet, and any unit that starts at 1 is a fool's errand to play. Add to this that Vader flips into a 5/8 that swings like a 7/8, and we have a guy that handily won me the entire tournament. I went undefeated with Vader, and my opponents included a character that seemed like they were meant to be an anti-Vader counter, and Emperor Palpatine, one of the only rare leaders to my knowledge. I mean, my special base helped a lot too. My base, Jeddah City, gives me a one-shot where I can reduce any opposing unit's power by 4 for the rest of the round. I know it's literally the same effect as a 1-cost card, and it seems like I'm spending 5 life points to prevent 4 damage, but always having it in my pocket was incredible. Basically, it made any large threat my opponent plays become as harmless as a kitten, while my smaller units beat the crud out of it with impunity. Yeah, an opponent played the Boba Fett card everybody's talking about on me and was pummeled to death by children. Back into the Sarlacc pit with ya, boyo! So yeah, there was a lot of complexity on display, lots of synergies, lots of choices, and yet the games were still surprisingly brief. I had a timer prepped because I was filming, or trying to film, the matches, and each one ended in about 20 minutes even though we were still learning. The only issue I felt were the usual concerns with snowballing. Since most units cannot attack the turn they are played, it feels like the only chance at an advantage that the losing player gets is, due to a common lack of stuff to do, the ability to always get the initiative token. Removal seems a bit scarce, and it seems like there aren't any nukes at all, at least none saw play. The fact that you can keep both cards drawn at the end step doesn't really help much if someone is under pressure very early on, and flipping Vader into attack mode was usually the end of the line for my opponent. But these are things that can be fixed. More reversal cards, more nukes, more units that can perform actions the turn they are played, and I think there is a lot of room for growth. So far, the set seems to be centered on the span between Star Wars Rebels and The Empire Strikes Back. There are cards from other eras, but the Rebel and Imperial archetypes are by far the most fleshed out. We still have things like the prequels, sequels, and extended universe to tap into. We could easily see Trade Federation, Jedi Council, or others get fully fleshed out, and maybe even a Jar Jar leader card. You will like Jar Jar, right? Go to the re-release of Phantom Menace and get his special limited edition Jar Jar card to go with your Jar Jar popcorn bucket and Jar Jar pajamas! So yeah, I think the game does have a lot of interesting things going on, and I see tons of ways that it can move forward and improve, even if some of its mechanics are painfully derivative. That said, I think most of my issues stem from a combination of fatigue and personal taste. I might get more into this game if I ruminate on it a bit more. Although if I had to mention things that needed improving, the reminder text involving cards that allow you to play a card as part of their effect should always remind the player that they have to pay the costs as normal. I would also include some way to universally depict the ground and space lanes that both players can see, like a card or token indicator that can be used in lieu of a playmat. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Star Wars Unlimited. I think it's fine. I definitely think it's better than Lorcana, but I do believe that it has a lot more to go. Just don't jump in thinking you're gonna get a lot of big shiny money cards, because you really aren't. Until next time, this is Kohdok signing off.